You're listening to the ProgAxia podcast.
The next one is Tales from Topographic Oceans.
All right, so I'm going to hold this one up as well. Well, we both got it. There we go. Fantastic. I'll do the middle bit.
Yeah. I want to talk about this middle bit as well. I mean, I want to talk about this as well, but
because you're a fan of this, I still haven't quite got it.
Yes, and we've talked about this in the past, and I get it. Totally get it. I understand that. I've spoken to literally hundreds of Yes fans over the last few years, and the question of this always comes up. Tales from Topographic Oceans. I think it's one of their best albums. I think it's absolutely the quintessential concept of what, to me, Yes is. We talked about Close to the Edge last time, and I love that. I think it's probably their best album, Close to the Edge. Their best album insofar as it's a concise, perfectly formed 3 pieces of music that you can't beat. I mean, Close to the Edge is probably the best Yes album for that. However, and you've asked me this question, if you was to be marooned on a desert island, what album would you take with you? And for me, it's Tales, and purely because it's not always just about the best music; it's about the experience of the music. And for me, this has so many good parts, so many beautiful pieces of music, and it's expansive. It's like dipping yourself into an ocean of Yes, quite literally dipping yourself into an ocean of Yes. It's a different type of album than a rock album. Close to the Edge, I think, is a very good progressive rock album. Probably one of the best out there. I mean, if I was to do my top 10, it'd be easily in the top 3, easily in the top 2. Probably number 1, but Tales wouldn't be too far behind. But it's a different psychological experience for me, and I've actually turned a lot of people, and I'm going to work on you. I have turned a lot of people who love Yes, never quite got into Tales, and I think it's because it's 4 tracks on a double album. So 1 track each side, and it seems pompous, it seems ridiculous, it seems overblown, and all those sort of things. However, I still say that you put it on, you put your headphones on, and give yourself to Yes for the time that it's on. Hour and a half or whatever it is. I don't even know how long it is. It's probably not
about that. 120. Yeah,
it's going to be an hour and a bit, isn't it? You give yourself to Yes for that time. Just don't think about, do I like this music? Is this passage good? Is this piece a filler? Because I think a lot of things that have happened over the years is that a lot of Yes fans have listened to people like Wakeman, for instance, and saying it wasn't his favourite album. He thinks there's a lot of bits in it and things like that, and sort of got put off it. But every single moment of that is Yes, and it's beautiful Yes, and it's great songwriting. There's some fantastic keyboard bits, there's some fantastic guitar bits. I mean, some of the guitar bits in there are just wonderful, but it's a vision of Jon Anderson, and it's not like just a rock album. It's almost like an experience, and as I say, I have sort of converted a few Yes fans that have said, "I'm never really good." And what's actually happened is they've never really listened to it. They've never really sat down and gone through all 4 sides and tried to experience it as a piece. It's a bit like classical music, like Wagner's Rings or something. Most people know little bits of Wagner, but no one really listens to the whole of it unless you're a massive Wagner fan, for instance.
Yeah, and you've got a few days to spare. Yeah.
And you've got a few days to spare, because that's like, so is it 7 hours or something ridiculous? So to me, this is one. It's a work rather than a rock album, if you know what I mean. It's something which it was a vision by Jon Anderson. He wanted to basically put the Bible, or actually the Hindu scriptures, that he was getting into. He just wanted to do something like it was the catalyst to creating this. But I can guarantee that there's so many iconic pieces of Yes music within that. And if the joining parts, what people call fillers, the joining parts to me are moving from one thing into the next thing, and it's just beautiful for me. It's just one of those it's probably one of the most beautiful Yes albums, and dangerous Yes albums. There's stuff on it that it takes a little while to get into it as well, but once you get into it, it just becomes this wonderful ocean of Yes glory.
So here's the thing for me. So does it take a while to get into it? Well, it's taken 42 years and counting so far for me. And
I will turn you.
You won't turn me. But here's the thing. So I think I get that. But the difference for me with the previous albums that you mentioned there is that, I got Fragile was, half of Fragile was a group album, and then they had their individual pieces, which they helped each other out on a little bit. Close to the Edge was a group album. You really got the sense they all bought into it and they were sort of working together as a team and in harmony. The other great Yes album for me would be Going for the One, which again I felt was clearly a great team effort. Rick was back in the fold, and Awaken is up there along with Close to the Edge for me. Whereas this album to me didn't feel like a group. It felt like, well, what it was. It was Jon Anderson and Steve Howe spending a lot of time together in hotel rooms, coming up with most of it, and the rest of the band coming along. Now, fair play to Alan White, because he suddenly found himself with this as his first album, and did a pretty good job. But the rest of the band, I didn't feel were bought into it in the same way. And whilst it does take you on a journey, dipping yourself or immersing yourself in the ocean of Yes, to me, it's a classic example of, it's probably a very good 60-minute album, but not for me an 80-minute four-side album. And that's for me where some self-editing, production team could have just said, hang on a minute, if we just compress this down a bit. Because I think they made a bit of a rod for their own back, Sandy, with saying, okay, we're going to do 4 sides of an album. And, as I say, I think there's a very good album and a bit in there. And to me, it's a bit like Lamb. Lamb Lies Down on Broadway for me, which would be next year's album. But for me, likewise, Lamb, side 3 just meanders a bit for me, and it's all part of the whole. That part of it I get, but I just think the whole could have been a bit more for me on this album, and that's where I am. But hey,
I totally get that.
Open to being turned, but we're going to have to take turns, me playing Lark's Tongues and Aspic to you, and you playing Tales to me, which would be an interesting musical experience.
Well, when the lockdown's done, we'll do that. But I know, I totally get it. I totally get what a lot of Yes fans say.
Yeah.
But I've just always loved it, and it's one of those albums that I will put on every so often, and I will listen to the whole thing. I'll put a little bit of time aside. I might get myself a glass of wine and that sort of thing, and just put my headphones on, and I'll just disappear for an hour and a half. I just literally I just swim in that ocean for a while, and I absolutely love it. But there are some of the best pieces of Yes music on that album, and yes, you could pull it down to a single album, maybe. I still think that it's perfect as it is. I wouldn't want to sort of edit it out. I couldn't even think of where to start with that. But I think you'd have to be a little bit more dispassionate if you wanted to edit it and sort of put it down into a single album. And it would be a great album, and it would be a great album for all Yes fans. I get that, but just this little blip of wonderful, expansive, mind-altering Yes is perfect. It's just like, we can have Close to the Edge, you can have Relayer and all those things. I love all those albums for what they are, but I just think it's like this little thing that they've got that to me is a wonderful. It's just wonderful to have this. We talked about going through all this, going through all the lyrics and stuff like that. I remember sitting down and headphones just reading this, getting involved in it, and it was absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I shall never be unconvinced.
That is not my intent.